joining us. My name is Dr. Ryan Shelton. I'm a functional medicine physician with My Go-To Doc. We are a group of physicians and healthcare providers that really focus on post-COVID, long-haul COVID patients, post-vaccine injury patients, because all of the symptoms, all of the syndromes that accompany those types of situations are very similar, and they are similar to so many chronic diseases in a variety of different ways. And by chronic diseases, I mean diseases that are caused by systemic inflammation throughout the body. And that can manifest as a number of different symptoms. It can manifest neurologically as brain fog, as difficulty concentration, difficult time remembering short-term, long-term memory. It can also lead to muscle dysregulation, so muscle spasms, fatigue, muscle fatigue, pretty significant overall fatigue in the body. It can manifest in the GI tract, so disturbances in the GI tract, new food sensitivities, new food allergies, gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, poor digestion, poor nutrient absorption. Um, Pain is also a very common symptom. Mood disorders, so depression, anxiety. We see all of these in post-COVID, long haul COVID patients. And the root to many of these is systemic inflammation, immune dysfunction. And so if we can begin to correct systemic inflammation and immune dysfunction, we can go a long, long way into treating the root cause of the symptoms and improving overall health and well-being. There are some fantastic functional laboratory tests that can be run to help identify some of the root causes. And as always, this is meant to be an integrative process. So please, if you have questions, let us know. Today's topic is a very general topic about a free radical diet and anti-inflammation diet. Next week, we're going to start to get back into specific symptoms, specific syndromes that post-COVID, post-vaccine injury can make you more susceptible to, like mold toxicity, environmental toxicity, allergies, chronic fatigue. And so if you have specific symptoms that you would like us to address, please let us know that as well. Certainly Lyme's disease, the occurrence of previous infections by viruses, bacteria, fungi, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, arthritis, joint pain, metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular health is very important. Again, I mentioned anxiety, depression, mood disorders. Also, hormone imbalances are quite common. So you can enter early menopause or early andropause as a result of post-COVID or post-vaccine injury. And then the appearance of new allergies or new sensitivities because of the immune dysfunction that is very common post-COVID. So we'll get back into some more specific symptoms and syndromes starting next Tuesday. But again, today's topic is really just an overall general, what do I do? What do I do with my diet, with my nutrition to make sure that I'm not promoting inflammation? I'm not promoting the cascade of free radical accumulation and damage to cells in the body, important cells in the body, like nerve tissues, like immune tissues, muscle, heart, digestion, or the GI tract. So it's these free radicals that cause inflammation throughout the body. And basically the takeaway from this, I'll get into some more specifics, but the takeaway from this comes down to focusing really on 5 components of your nutritional intake. Number one, the type and quality of fats that you're consuming. And that is largely also equated or connected to the types of proteins that you're eating, making sure that you're getting proteins with healthy fats. So fats and proteins. Number two, making sure that you're getting plenty of fruits and vegetables. I certainly always recommend that you eat the rainbow, eat as many colors as possible. Those colors in food, in the fruits and vegetables, those are antioxidants. Those are polyphenols, those are proanthocyanidins. Uh, those are anti-inflammatory chemicals that can help your body decrease inflammation, decrease the negative influence of fibrinogen, and decrease the cascade and the perpetuation of free radical accumulation throughout the body. So fats and proteins, plenty of fruits and vegetables. I recommend trying to get at least 7, 8, 9 servings of 5 colors each and every day. Next, fiber is very important. Now, this goes along with ensuring that you're eating plenty of fruits and vegetables and whole grains and beans and legumes, whole foods, not processed foods, not foods that are found in boxes and packages and bags. So whole foods, and really ensuring adequate amounts of fiber each and every day. And I would encourage you to enlist the aid of what I call a diet diary, just writing down the foods that you're consuming for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks, and the quantity for a couple of days during the week, and then maybe one day on the weekend, because your diet can shift a little bit on the weekend. And then there are plenty of websites out there that you can enter the quantity of food, and it will hit back with you the grams of fiber in that food, and calculate the total. My recommendation is at least 30 grams of fiber each and every day, and most individuals aren't anywhere close to that. They may be getting 15, 20 grams of fiber each and every day. So a minimum target of 30, better yet, 40 or 50 grams of fiber each and every day. And again, fiber-rich foods include fruits and vegetables, beans, legumes, nuts and seeds, whole grains. So we're really trying to focus on a whole foods diet. And finally, the fifth category are probiotics. So making sure that if you can incorporate fermented foods in your diet, yogurt is a good option, kefir is a good option, sauerkraut, kimchi, tempeh is also a fermented food. Kombucha is a fantastic fermented drink. So consuming fermented foods to try to incorporate as many probiotics as you can in the diet. The probiotics help to ensure a healthy microbiome in the digestive tract, which can decrease inflammation, and it can really start to correct the immune dysfunction that we see is so common in post-COVID and long COVID, post vaccine injury patients. So if you're not a big fan of fermented foods, then I would highly recommend that you take a high quality multi-strain supplement of a probiotic. So fruits and veggies, fats and proteins, fiber, and probiotics as a takeaway. So again, if you have any questions as we go along, some of the specifics of a free radical diet or an anti-free radical diet, an anti-inflammatory diet, please let me know. There are nutritionists on staff. I certainly work with patients myself to help really formulate an individualized diet for people, to make sure that not only are the foods healthy for them in a post-COVID state, but they're tasty. You enjoy preparing them. You enjoy um, you enjoy consuming them. You enjoy consuming them with family and friends. A whole foods diet really can be so much more flavorful and desirable than a synthetic processed diet. Sometimes it can take an adjustment period depending on what your current diet looks like and what your current nutritional intake looks like. It can take anywhere from a week to kind of neuro adapt to a whole foods diet. And some people, if they're consuming only processed foods, it can take as much as 30 days to fully neuro adapt to a whole foods diet. But once you've done that process, your brain is much more happy, and the foods begin to taste much more flavorful. Okay, so let's see if we have any questions going on at this point. Mm, oh, yeah, here's one. So COVID vaccine ruined my thyroid TSH level. Yes. So one of the systems in the body, it affects the neurological system, it affects the cardiovascular system, the immune system, but certainly it affects the endocrine system as well. So this includes hormones that are produced in the brain, hormones produced in the thyroid gland, hormones that are produced in the adrenal glands. Certainly hormones produced by the pancreas, such as insulin and glucagon, and then sex hormones that are produced from testes and males, and estrogen and progesterone in females. It affects the entire symphony of the endocrine system. And the thyroid gland seems to be a little bit more susceptible to both the vaccine itself, and then as a result of being infected with the live virus, and seeing the after effects of a COVID infection. And so TSH levels tend to go up, meaning that thyroid hormone levels tend to decrease, placing you in a state of hypo or low thyroid. Um, Less commonly, you can see TSH levels decline, which means thyroid levels actually are elevated, placing you in a hyperthyroid situation. But again, most post-COVID, most post-vaccine injury patients find themselves more likely in a hypo or low thyroid condition. Uh, any treatment to bring it down. So it sounds like you're in a hypo or low thyroid. TSH and thyroid hormone are inversely related. So as that TSH level goes up, that's an indicator that your actual thyroid hormone levels have decreased. Are there any treatments to bring TSH down? Well, the most important thing you can do is bring thyroid hormone levels up, which will physiologically bring that TSH level down. So the focus should really be on what can we do to increase thyroid hormone levels. There are some nutrients that you can consider. Certainly, a few minerals are very important. And here I'm thinking of zinc and selenium. They're important for the processing of how thyroid hormones are actually made in the body. Vitamin A and beta carotenes are very important. There are a few hormones that can be beneficial as well. Kind of at the top of the list would be I'm sorry, there are a few herbal agents that can be useful as well. One at the top of the list certainly is an herb called ashwagandha or withania. It's got some pretty decent research on it in helping to boost thyroid levels, thus decreasing TSH levels. Depending on what those levels are, you may have to do a round or two of hormone replacement therapy with either desiccated thyroid hormone, bioidentical hormone replacement, or even a pharmaceutical agent such as Synthroid or Cytomel, which are synthetic forms of T4 and T3. So it just really depends on what those levels are. But yes, you can certainly bring those thyroid levels up and that TSH level down. This is from the same individual. TSH went from 6 to 23 after vaccine of COVID. That's quite significant. So even a level at 6, you were in a state very likely of hypothyroidism. Usually the traditional cutoff is 5. My cutoff is, I'm a little bit more aggressive in my treatment. My cutoff level is 3.5 to 4, depending on what the rest of the hormones look like in the body. But if you were at a 6 previously, you were already in a hypothyroid state, and the vaccine just kind of pushed it over the edge. Now, what we've actually seen is that both as a result of the um, post uh, post COVID infection and the vaccine injury, is that not only is there a state of hypothyroidism, but remember, both the vaccine and the live virus can cause a dysregulation of the immune system, and so the prevalence of autoimmune disease goes up post vaccine and post COVID infection. And so what that looks like in terms of the thyroid gland is you can get what's called a Hashimoto's autoimmune disease. So you may not have had a Hashimoto's autoimmune condition before. Maybe it was just simply a low thyroid. Now suddenly you have the immune system attacking the thyroid, confusing the thyroid. So now it's producing even smaller levels of thyroid hormone, and that tends to be Hashimoto's as an autoimmune condition tends to be a rather frustrating condition to treat, both for providers and for patients, just because Hashimoto's, because of the immune function, tends to kind of have peaks and valleys in terms of when the immune system is really pumping out those antibodies against thyroid and when those levels go down. And I see that you're negative for Hashimoto's. That's great. That's great. So let's see, just T3 and T4 are normal. TSH just went up. So that's an indicator that the injury from the vaccine very likely affected your pineal gland, which in the hypothalamus, which is where TSH originates. And so very likely what we have is some inflammatory processes, some reactive oxygenated species in the hypothalamus, in the brain, that's causing that TSH level to go up. So it may not be directly affecting the thyroid gland, but further up in the brain, causing some hypothalamic issues. And in your case, because the hypothalamic region is so important in controlling hormones throughout the body, it controls the thyroid hormone output, the adrenal hormone output, and the sex hormonal output. I would really be interested in testing some of those other hormones because the hypothalamus is a very, very small region in the brain, and if it's causing TSH fluctuations, then it's very likely causing some fluctuations in some of the other hormones that the other stimulating hormones that tell the endocrine glands how much hormones to produce. Okay, so let's get into more of the specifics here of what an anti-inflammatory diet really looks like. Okay. So when it comes to fats and proteins, here we're looking at the types of meats, fish, shellfish, nuts and seeds, whole grains, beans, and legumes. What we want is a ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 that is anti-inflammatory. Now, most individuals, most Americans, consume way too many omega-6 fatty acids, way too much trans fatty acids, partially hydrogenated oils, and just simply not enough of the omega-3 anti-inflammatory oils. So it's important when you're looking at the meats that you're consuming, when you're looking at the proteins that you're consuming. Let's say red meat, for instance, and Sorry about that. Uh, let's say red meat, for instance. And as a general rule, I would recommend that you try to limit red meat consumption to maybe once or twice a week. There is a difference between grass fed beef and grain-fed beef. The grass-fed beef, it's much higher, it's much richer in omega-3 fatty acids, and in particular, a special kind of fatty acid called CLA, um, which is beneficial for its anti-inflammatory purposes. So if you're consuming red meat, please try to make sure that it's free range and it's grass fed. And then more of the protein should either come from vegetarian sources like beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds, or from the ocean. Or lakes, but my preference is the ocean. So, seafood, fish, fatty fish in particular, anchovies, herring, certainly salmon, trout would be great options as well. Shellfish are high in omega-3 fatty acids. So beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds, fish and shellfish, whole grains. Try to consume much of your protein through those sources rather than red meat. And then poultry is kind of in the middle. So poultry, you could have maybe 2 or 3 times a week and it not promote inflammation. Um, So, as a functional medicine doctor, my belief is that much of this inflammation originates. Yes, there may be an original source, such as a vaccine or a live virus infection, but much of the inflammation, much of the systemic inflammation throughout the body, may start in the gut. So, identifying and removing pro-inflammatory foods is step one. We're trying to stop a raging fire. Um, and we can't really do that with a thimble of water. We have to dose the whole system with buckets and buckets and buckets of anti-inflammatory foods. And so trying to fix a hole in the boat um, or trying to fix a sinking boat by paling out the water is not necessarily the solution. What the solution is to try to fix the holes in the boat, where all of the pro-inflammatory foods, the pro-inflammatory chemicals are coming from. So in addition to omega 3s, omega 7s and omega 9s are important as well. So here we're thinking of avocados, we're thinking of olives and olive oil, which are rich in omega 7s and omega 9s, omega 3s as well. We're just trying to really limit the amount of omega 6s. And I didn't touch on this earlier, but refined sugars are just simply a killer for inflammation. They increase cytokines, pro-inflammatory cytokines throughout the body. They're simply empty calories without the needed fiber to help promote a healthy microbiome throughout the system. They exacerbate and increase inflammation through the body. And one of the mechanisms through which they do that is that they begin to cause an imbalance, a dysregulation in the glucagon insulin ratio produced by your pancreas. And when insulin levels are too high and you have episodes of hyperglycemia and then it fluctuates to hypoglycemia, and that causes a cascade of ROSs, or reactive oxygenated species, and inflammation throughout the body. Probiotics are very important, as I mentioned earlier. Fermented food or taking a healthy probiotic supplement. And again, they help both decrease inflammation and they help to really stabilize the aggravated immune system. And much of the immune system, in fact, the majority of the immune system is circulating around the gut. And so making sure that the microbiome is at a healthy place is very important. We also didn't touch on lectins, which is kind of a side topic. It could take an hour lecture in itself. Lectins are basically sticky proteins that plants use to protect themselves against insects and other assaults. And lectins can become sticky in our system as well, causing leaky gut syndrome, causing intestinal permeability. And when you have leaky gut and intestinal permeability, then you're just absorbing nutrients and compounds that you should not be um, absorbing, and this only aggravates the inflammatory state within the body. Lectins tend to be high in dairy products, in um, refined grains, nuts and seeds, unfortunately, and then the nightshade vegetables as well. Certainly, this should go without saying. Avoiding artificial sweeteners and colorings and preservatives as best as you can. Um, Avoiding age products, advanced uh, glycinated in products. So this means cooking at high temperatures should be avoiding. So grilling, barbecuing, frying, cooking at high temperatures, basically. What you're doing is cross-linking proteins with sugars, and that cross-linking can, especially in a situation of leaky gut or intestinal permeability, be absorbed and cause cross-linking throughout the body, and the body does not um, prefer to be in a cross-linked state, so it just serves to increase inflammation further. So try to avoid as best you can the cooking of your foods at high temperatures. Fruits and vegetables, again, trying to eat the rainbow, eating 5 colors if you can of 7, 8, 9 servings of fruits and or vegetables each and every day. Very important. So I'm going to list off some foods for you that have some of the higher ORAC scores, and ORAC is just a fancy word that helps determine how powerful their anti-inflammatory properties are going to be in the body. Certainly at the top of the list, they tend to be berries and cherries, full of proanthocyanidins and antioxidants that have very high ORAC scores. Others include kiwi, peaches, mango, cantaloupe, apples, carrots, squash, sweet potato, spinach, kale, any dark leafy green vegetable, broccoli, cabbage, and those last two that I listed are in the brassica family of vegetables. So broccoli, cabbage, kale, Brussels sprouts, all fantastic brassica vegetables that not only decrease inflammation, but they can help your liver detox as well. Um, Beans and legumes have good ORAC scores. Lentils actually have some of the highest in the beans and legume category. And then also consider consuming and cooking, preparing food with culinary herbs and spices. And my 2 favorite culinary herbs and spices that have fantastic ORAC scores are ginger and uh, turmeric or curcumin, and but any of the green herbs and spices as well. So the rosemary, the thyme, the oregano, the basil, these all have excellent uh, proanthocyanidin and ORAC scores. um, so I'm going to take a break from the diet for just a moment, and I'll get back to it. Let me see if any further questions have come in here. So as I'm looking at the questions, um, I would like to remind you that we're going to swap over the platforms right now. We're going to swap over to a different platform called Pro. So I would like you to visit the website at pro.longcovidreset.com. That's pro.longcovidreset.com. And we're going to switch over to that platform. If you would like to see this video in its entirety, I would encourage you to visit that website now. And I will get into some more questions that have come in, and I'll continue with the generalized anti-inflammatory free radical diet in just a few moments.